Welcome. In this video, we'll be discussing how to evaluate expressions with exponents. So first of all, what does an exponent mean? What does it do for us? Well, an exponent is just a shorthand way of writing out a multiplication problem. So I put an example down, 3 squared. Well, what that tells me is that I'm supposed to multiply 3 by itself so that I have 2 factors of 3. Okay, 3 squared is 3 times 3. So my answer then would be 3 squared is equivalent to 9. Okay, well let's try, in light of that, let's try example number 1, and we're actually going to do number 2 as well. So looking at number 1, the first problem asks us to do -4 squared. So again, this exponent basically tells us how many factors of this number we're going to end up with. So in this case, we're supposed to do -4 times -4. The entire number inside the parentheses is being squared. So the negative is coming along for the ride. So when we do -4 times -4, our answer is positive 16. Okay, let's try part B. Well, again, what's being cubed this time? What's being taken to the third power? Well, the third power is outside the parentheses, so that means everything inside the parentheses is being multiplied by itself and then multiplied by itself again. So if we wrote this out as a multiplication problem, we should get -5 times -5 times -5. Well, if we multiply this out, -5 times -5 is positive 25. But then we still have this -5 at the end. So 25 positive times -5 is going to give us -125 overall as an answer. Okay, let's try number 2. So number 2, notice how number 2a and 2a and 1a differ. In 1a, we had the -4 inside the parentheses. So when we squared it, the negative part came along for the ride. Okay, notice in number 2a, the number -5 is not in parentheses. That's significant because what that means is that just the 5 is being squared, and then we're taking the opposite of that result. In other words, what this means when there are no parentheses is that really there are parentheses, but they're just around the 5, and they don't include the negative sign. So if we were writing this out as a multiplication problem, what we would have is 5 times 5, and then the negative would be lingering in front. So when we do this, we would have 5 times 5 is 25, but then again, there's this negative here, so we're supposed to take the opposite of 25, which is -25. So our final answer in this case is -25. So notice the difference between the two. When we want to indicate that we're actually squaring a negative number, we have to include the negative sign inside the parentheses. When we want to indicate that we're taking the opposite of a number squared, we leave the number outside the parentheses and the negative sign outside the parentheses. Okay, I want you to try 2b. Pause the video and then restart it when you're ready. Okay, so for 2b, again, this time the number's inside the parentheses. So when I write it out as a multiplication problem, we should have gotten -6 times -6 times -6. And if you multiply this out, -6 times -6 is 36. And then 36 times -6 is going to yield -216. Okay, let's do one more example. So the last one I want you guys to try is negative 3 squared. Or to be more accurate, the opposite of 3 squared. Pause the video and then restart it after you give it a try. Okay, so this one is a lot like the first one in the section where the number again is outside the parentheses. So the only thing being squared in this case is the 3. The negative sign is just sort of hovering in front. So you should have gotten an answer of negative and then just the 3 times 3. So if you multiply 3 by itself, that's 9. The opposite of 9 is negative 9.